tutorial I want to throw out there because I have been stuck in a rut when it comes to improvising and the pentatonic scale and stuff like that for the last 10 years easily. So I want to help out other guitar players out there that may be stuck in the same rut because it's very, very common. It's called being stuck in the box specifically. The box is what you should already know, hopefully. If not, then skip this video for now and you know, bookmark it or something and come back to it later. But the box is our pentatonic box. That's something you should already know. It's super simple. It's basically 1-4, 1-3, 1-3, 1-3, 1-4, and 1-4. Right, that's very easy. That's something you learn after a couple of weeks of guitar, you know, being a guitar student or something. So you should already know that, and I knew that 10 years ago. I knew that, but then I also figured out, well, you can kind of slide a little bit lower, and maybe you've already heard of this as well. Like you can play around here, and I knew you could go for the ultimate blues effect. You could go up here. Right, play around in this upper register here. And that's what I knew, and it worked to the degree that I could get away with it in most cases and sound okay. At least for the time I thought I sounded okay with it. So the problem is, it's not complete. And at some point it frustrates you and you get stuck in it. So here's my tips to get out of that box. And I'm not some great guitar player at all, but I've been in the box and I think I have found a way to escape it. So that's all I'm sharing here. So thanks for watching, and here we go. Alright, so the first thing we have to do is basically learn the pentatonic across the entire fretboard. And a lot of people rush this, and I would heavily suggest you don't. And I know it sounds tricky, and I've looked at these charts on the internet that lay out the entire pentatonic scale, or minor pentatonic scale, depending on how you look at it, across the entire fretboard. There's diagrams, there's everything. However, it never really was easy enough for me to memorize. So, you know, I tend to be lazy, and probably so are you, otherwise you probably wouldn't be watching this video. So the idea is, it's not the best way to learn. So how can we learn? Well, the first thing is finding out that we already know a lot. We already know the box. There are 5 positions, this is one of them. Let's basically go through the other positions and give them names so we can actually kind of, you know, relate to them a little bit and visualize them a bit more. Personally, this helped me. If this doesn't work for you, it's okay, you'll have to find another way. Maybe you are the diagram person, but me, I'm a visual learner. I know a lot of people are actually, so chances are you are too. So this is what we'll call box, okay? This is our home territory. Again, you have to know this. If you haven't even heard of this or something, then this video is just not for you quite yet. That's okay, you know, everybody has to start somewhere, but then I suggest looking at some minor pentatonic videos. There are thousands of them. So this is our box, our home territory, and we can play around in it at this point. Right, it's very simple and very effective, but let's extend our horizon. So let's talk about this position, and let's call it maybe lower box. Okay, call it lower box because it's a little bit lower on the fretboard. It's a little bit further out on the fretboard. And this position fully is a 2-4, 2-4, 1-4, 1-4, 2-4, and 2-4. It's symmetrical. It's very simple. It's literally just these, and these, and then these fingers. It's that simple. And that's our lower box. That's our second out of 5. We're almost at the halfway point. Thankfully, getting over the halfway point is very simple with a third position, which we'll call upper box, okay? Because this is a little bit more up, you know, closer to us on the fretboard, higher as far as the note values are concerned. So this is very simple. And a lot of people, including me, knew this like from 10 years ago, but I only knew it on the upper 3 strings, on the E string, the B string, and the G string. And the reason is because that's so damn effective, because it's so cool and easy to... I don't know, to just basically play the blues up there. So let's be complete though, let's not rush it. If you were going to rush it, you'll just learn the upper three strings and call it a day, but it does pay off to know it all the way through, if you're really set on improving at least. So, it's basically 2-4, it's a 1-4, it's another 1-4, a 1-3, a 2-4, and another 2-4. Okay, so you might already have known the uppers, but the lower strings are important as well. Right, very simple, pretty cool position. So now we are over the halfway point. In fact, we know 3 out of 5 scales, or I should say positions really. This is lower box, this is our pentatonic main box, just box, and this is our upper box. Okay, let's cover the rest. The 4th out of 5 positions is what I call the tower, and that's because it looks like a wonky tower. So it goes 1-3, 1-3, 1-3, very simple, the bottom 3 strings are just 1-3. It's kind of why I call it the tower, because it's very straight. And then it gets a little bit wonky though. Basically now we have a 0-3. 0 meaning this is our 1 fret, this is our 0 fret. It's basically going down a fret here. So then it's a 1-4 and then another 1-3. So that's our tower. Pretty simple to learn, right? It's not the most complicated position whatsoever. And that leaves us with the very last connecting piece, which I would call the box variation. The box, if you remember, in A was our 5th position super standard thing. The variation of it sits right here at the 12th fret and goes like this: 1-4, 1-4, 1-3, 1-3, 2-4, and 1-4. It's, if you pay close attention, actually the very same box position, except it doesn't start on the low E string, it starts 1 string higher at the A string. That's the only difference, that's why it's called the box variation. Okay, so this position, our home base here, our box, starts here. And if you take that scale and just start it here, which is an octave higher, then this becomes your box variation. So you can use that to learn, or say screw it and just learn it, you know, just by learning 1-4, 1-4, 1-3, 1-3, 2-4, 1-4. It doesn't really matter. But this is everything. That was our first big step. Now we know the pentatonic across the entire freaking fretboard. There's no compromises, there's no gray areas anymore. We know it, we can play it, right? It's very simple. And we can shift it along. If it's not in A, if it's in, say, B, it's all just 2 frets higher. Okay, so our tower, that used to be here, is now just in the 12th position instead of the 10th. So that would be our tower in B, for example, our tower position in B. So it's very simple: lower box, box, upper box, tower, and box variation. Alright, let's quickly talk about one thing that's really important, is going to make you sound even better, and that's knowing where your root notes are. So we already talked about all the shapes, but knowing where the root notes lie on top of those shapes is really cool, because sometimes you're in a position like this, let's say we're in A, and we're in the tower, okay, improvising in the tower position. And we feel it needs to resolve, it needs to sound like it's not quite there yet, and we want to end our phrase. So knowing what the root notes are, we can finally play our root note A in this position. But this means that we need to know why was this note the one that sounded good at the end. So essentially, let's just go through it. And some people do this. Right, so those were all the A's, some of the A's on the fretboard, but that's not good enough. This is not good enough in my opinion. You need to know, according to the shape that you're in, where the root note is. You know, playing them isolated is not enough in my opinion. So let's go through it. You should probably be aware of the fact that in our main box, you have this, and this, and this as your root notes. Okay, that's something you should already know if you already know the box position. But let's go one step higher to the upper box. In the upper box, this is one of the root notes. and that is another root note up here. So those were our two root notes in that position, and that's the important aspect. Let's go up to the tower. That's one of the roots. And then let's keep on playing the tower. That is, of course, another root. So here in the tower, and down there in the tower, those are our two root notes here. Then let's move up into the inverted box. Of course, there's another root. And here is another root. And then we go up to the lower box, which is just the same as down here, except one octave higher. And so on and so forth. Of course, we have a root down here. And we have another one here. And up there. Okay, so those, you have to, of course, learn them a little bit more in depth than that. But those are all the root notes. And those are all you have to know. If you know in your shapes, basically all the notes you're playing in your shape are good and great, but those ones that are also the root notes are great. Those are awesome. You're like Pac-Man, you're eating all your regular dots. All those are regular dots, but then you come to the one with cherry on top. And don't tell me you've never played Pac-Man, because if so, get the hell out of this video. So that's just about it for the root notes. Know them and you can resolve to them. Very simple. That's an A. Alright, so we just talked about all the shapes and where the root notes are. The next thing is going to be similar, and that's a really, really important aspect in making you sound bluesy, but it's used all across the board. So that means jazz, metal, anything. And it's the blue notes, okay? So again, you probably have already heard of them if you've seen diagrams or YouTube videos or whatever. In your root position, right, in your box, we now know where all the root notes are, but we should also know where all the, or at least some of the blue notes are. And you can find them with experimentation, or you can learn them. And again, learning them is the less half-assed way and actually makes you sound better and more confident in your playing, right? So here we have the root note here, and we have one here. Okay, essentially this is the note between the fourth and the fifth. It's also called a tritonus. It's not actually exactly there, but it's an approximation we can play on the guitar. All of this doesn't really matter. You just need to know where it is and how it sounds. And how it sounds and how you can use it is something for you to figure out for your own style of playing. There's nothing any teacher can do to help you with that, I don't think. But knowing where they are, you know, is a thing you just need to learn, and let's do that. So, okay, I just played them there. So it's, that's a blue note, and that's another blue note. Let's move on, just some spots. So let's go into the upper box. That's a nice one where you can play it. Okay, so let's move into our tower. Okay, our tower is interesting because it has the blue note on the uppermost string and the lowest string, so on our E strings. Okay, those are our blue notes. And up here. It's a very nice position to kind of like play a little trill like that. And then you know this is our A, because we already learned that, so you can resolve to that. But let's move on. Our inverted box variation position here is it's up here. That's where the blue note is. And then we go into the lower box one octave higher again. And it's up here. Right? Those are just some of the blue notes that you can play, you can mix in to make yourself sound much better. And so now you know all the shapes, you know all the root notes, and you know where the blue notes are. Basically, this sets you up to be the most amazing blues player ever. No, I guess a little bit more goes into that. But this already sets you up with a lot of knowledge, and now is really the time, if you haven't already, you know, do play along to that backing track in the video description, or find your own, but practice this for an hour every day, and after a couple of days you'll be sounding great. The cool thing is always to, if you, for example, you're in the upper box, okay, here in A, and you say, you know, this is the blue note, it's right in between. Take the lower one and basically bend it up a little bit. This will pretty much always sound good. So instead of playing, you can play and resolve it to the root, right? That's all the stuff you can do already now. So that's pretty awesome, and then it'll sound good. So this is just one more aspect I want to talk about, and then you're free and off to practice. Alright, welcome back. So we already have so much stuff under our belt here. Now, we can feel like we're pretty good, right? We know everything, it's all cool, we know all the positions, we can play any scale. If it's G, it's 2 frets lower, for example. If it's in E, your root box is here, that's your lower box. In the 5th fret is actually your tower, right? It all shifts along, we can all do that, it's very simple. However, there's one big thing missing. We know the pentatonic, however, we don't know the actual major or minor full scale, right? The minor is called the Aeolian, and the major is called the Ionian, and so we aren't quite professionals yet, are we, really? Well, that's where you're wrong, because we actually already know just about everything we need to know, so that's the cool thing. That's something, I don't know, it never occurred to me, and none of my guitar teachers have really mentioned it like that. But knowing the pentatonic inside out, extending that, and that's what we're going to do right now, extending that pentatonic over to the full-blown scale, and it goes right into, you know, Ionian, Aeolian, and all the rest of the modes, in fact, is super simple. So at this point we know, if you think about it, we know the pentatonic, so that's cool, we can play it. I actually screwed up there. I actually went one step further. Anyways, so we know that. We can play this across the fretboard wherever we want. Cool. But how do we extend that? So if we take a close look, for example, in our upper box on the A string and the D string, it has this. It's a 1-4, 1-4. And if you think about it, the pentatonic scale has a lot of these areas where it's either basically the 2 notes that you're going to play are basically a fret apart. So like for example in the tower, right? It's always 1 fret in the middle where nothing happens. Maybe sometimes there's a blue note there, but that's it. So if you leave out the blue notes, it's really just these. Basically, it's called a whole tone step, but it's just 1 fret that's left empty. But then in other positions, like in the tower on the upper strings, or in the aforementioned upper box position, we have this where there's 2 frets in between. So let's call these ones small steps, and these ones large steps. So essentially the pentatonic, if you play it all across the network, all across the fretboard, it's really just a collection of small steps and big steps. And the small steps are already exactly what you would play in a full minor scale, for example. So that's cool. We don't even need to change anything. We really only need to change the big steps. And for the big steps, they come in basically on 2 adjacent strings. So again, right? Those are 2 adjacent strings, and they have 2 of the big steps. And no matter where exactly you find these big steps, for example in the tower up here, right? Again, you have 2 of the big steps on adjacent strings. So every time you see one of those areas on the fretboard where there's these 2 big steps, all you need to know is that, let's go back here, is that there is 1 note close to your index finger on the lower string, and 1 note close to your pinky key, or your ring finger, depending on how you finger the strings here, basically on your upper string. So it's always, 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 no matter where you are, it's that, and that's it. And if you take that into consideration, you will find that now, with just that super simple step, we have extended our knowledge from knowing the entire pentatonic across the fretboard, all the root notes, all the blue notes, to knowing all of that, plus actually knowing it not just in pentatonic, but in our actually melodic scales that we can use. So now we can play stuff like the actual full minor scale, or we can use those notes. Basically it's the second and the sixth, again, if that matters to you. If not, then it doesn't matter. Yeah, it really doesn't matter overall, but it's the second and the sixth step that are now added, and they are again flavor tones that will sound great depending on the chord that's playing along. So, you know,